Allan Saxe is on right now this morning to talk about this rough week that Donald Trump had. I mean, a lot of talk about the lies coming out of the mouth of Hillary Clinton, her short-circuiting, but no one seemed to focus on that with a few big faux pas out of the mouth of Donald Trump. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
I am convinced this man does not want to be president.
You may be right.
Yeah.
Sometime when you look at it, you're right. He just cannot control himself. On the other hand, there was something that came out over the weekend that is very damaging to Mrs. Clinton's campaign if the mainline media grabs hold of it, which is doubtful. And that is this Iranian nuclear scientist who was executed in Iran, supposedly for spying for the United States. His name shows up in some Clinton emails, and that was made notice yesterday on the morning talk shows by United States Senator from Arkansas, Senator Cotton, and he talked about that. And if that is true, that does not look good. But the mainline media has to grab hold of it and go back to the Clinton emails and say, look, it did damage national security and can do so more. That may help Donald Trump quite a bit in the end.
Sounds like, I mean, if this is true, it cost somebody their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big, is potentially a very big story. The question is, like so many other things, is the mainline media going to grab hold of it?
Yeah.
But you're also right. Donald Trump has made some absolutely ridiculous blunders over the past couple of weeks. And in a couple of key states, those so-called battleground states, and two of them being New Hampshire and Pennsylvania, he's running behind. And what makes that so important to the Republican Party is that there's many more Republican incumbents running this year for re-election than Democrats. And at the top of the ticket, that could spell doom for them in running for re-election.
Yeah. The difficulty is, I think you're facing, I mean, Professor, first of all, we have a lot of history in this country, certainly not the history that they have over in Europe, but we have 240 years of history here. Do you recall a time when both candidates were so damaged running for president?
You're right. That it is difficult to find somebody that, it's difficult to compare another election to this one.
Yeah.
However, going back many years to Lyndon Baines Johnson, he didn't make the kind of faux pas that Donald Trump is making publicly, but behind the scenes, Lyndon Johnson was about as crude and as rude a man as you could possibly know. The difference is it didn't become public. And he's running against a man by the name of Barry Goldwater in 1964. And Barry Goldwater was labeled somewhat of the Donald Trump of his day. It's difficult to compare the two exactly. But Barry Goldwater would make comments that the mainline media would grab on, I think, very unfairly. And by the way, he had some psychiatrists saying that he was mad who would never even talk to him, who had never even examined him. So we had gone through a little bit of this before, but nothing like this.
So it would have been so easy to get out of the situation with the Gold Star parents.
Oh, it's right. In fact, some people argue that what the Democrats did, they put the Gold Star parents up there sort of as a trap for Donald Trump, knowing that how he would respond to it. And sure enough, he took the bait.
Well, that seems to be the new strategy of the Democrats and the Clinton team is that you just poke him.
That's right, and he'll take the bait.
And he takes the bait. So I guess the question is, how does this team that is so established, this is really an established team behind him right now, and a veteran team, how do they control him?
He has to learn it, and I don't know how that can be done. Apparently, he's a little bit better than he used to be in regard to just not grabbing at everything, but his ego, his personality, just will not let it go. I think there was a very famous statement one time. It might have been John Kennedy or somebody who said, don't let your feelings get out there. Vengeance can be done later on in private,
Right.
So, don't let them know immediately how you feel. But later on, vengeance will be mine.
Yeah, you can get
Donald
him
Trump
afterwards.
can't handle that.
No, and it's right out in public view.
That's right.
The Purple Heart issue. Clearly he wasn't purposely being insensitive. The problem or disrespectful to those who've earned a Purple Heart. The problem is don't you feel at this point the presidential nominee should know what the Purple Heart stands for?
Oh, exactly. But there was another woman who was a Gold Star mother who said, I'm not immune to criticism. She was on Fox television several days ago, and she lost a son as well in the wars. And she said, I'm not immune to criticism. And it was a very interesting statement, because I've heard people say, if you're a Gold Star parent, you're sort of immune to criticism. They're off limits. Well, one mother said, no, that's not true. I'm not immune to criticism. And I think that she had a very valuable point.
Yeah, but listen, honestly, that's an invalid point. If you're a presidential candidate, you got to know enough to. It's easy for Donald Trump. Simple. You know what? I disagree with them. I thank them for their and respect what they've given up, their sacrifice for this country. Unfortunately, we disagree, and you end it. Instead, this guy created a firestorm.
Well, you're right. You can criticize. It's how you phrase it.
Yeah, saying she doesn't, she can't.
Immigration. He could have talked about
correct.
walls, but it's how you phrase it.
We've got you covered here. That's all right. I've had the same thing happen to me several times. Once it happens, it's hard to get rid of.
Oh, boy, it's terrible.
Yeah. We're going to let you go then, Professor. Thank you.
I'll be coughing the rest of the day.
All right. Good luck. Thank you so much.
I apologize very much.
We'll talk again.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Professor Allan Saxe. That happens, and what do you do? And then, I hate to say it, but I think the panic comes in. It's like, oh, my God, I'm in the middle of an interview. How do I stop it? I had told you that we went to see the comedian who was injured.
Somebody's going to get pregnant. I can't think of his name.
Somebody's going to get pregnant?
Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. And he had one of those attacks, but I think it's injury related for him.
Right.
And as long as we're talking about comedians, we saw an amazing comedian on Friday night, Andrew Domenio.
Mr. Jim Brewer.
The guy is legendary funny. He is formerly of Saturday Night Live. He's been on so many, but he's grown up, and we kind of watched him grow up. And I don't know. I can identify with everything he says. Like once you hit 40, the aches and pains kick in. He's talking about, listen, I have tennis elbow. I don't even play tennis. And I totally can identify. Quick break. We'll come back with birthdays and news next on WIBX.